Nestled in the heart of Connecticut, Willow Creek was the kind of place where time seemed to stand still. Colonial homes with steeply pitched roofs lined streets shaded by ancient oaks, their leaves painting the ground in fiery hues each fall. The town's heartbeat was its high school, Willow Creek High, where Friday night football games and spring talent shows brought the community together. It was a place where everyone knew your name, where secrets were whispered over picket fences, and where tragedy felt like a distant stranger, until it wasn't. On a chilly October morning, the town awoke to a nightmare. Joggers on a wooded trail near the high school stumbled upon a scene that would haunt Willow Creek forever. The lifeless body of 16-year-old Emily Harper, a beloved cheerleader whose smile had lit up the town. She lay face down on a carpet of fallen leaves, her blonde hair matted with blood and dirt, a shoelace knotted brutally around her neck. Nearby, a tree bore a chilling message in red paint: "No one escapes their sins." The words, scrawled with frantic urgency, sent a shiver through the community. This was no accident. Emily had been murdered, and the killer was one of their own. Emily Harper, a star with shadows. Emily Harper was more than a cheerleader. She was a force of nature. With her infectious laugh and quick wit, she could charm anyone, from teachers to strangers at the town diner. As a junior at Willow Creek High, she was a natural leader, rallying her squad with boundless energy. Her Instagram was a gallery of sunlit selfies, game day spirit, and candid shots of her friends. But Emily's life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. In her private diary, discovered later by investigators, she poured out her dreams of traveling to Paris, her fears of never being enough, and the pressure to maintain her popularity. Born into a middle-class family, Emily grew up with the comforts of a stable home. Her parents, Tom and Linda Harper, were fixtures at school events, cheering her on at every game. Yet Emily felt the weight of their expectations: to excel academically, to shine socially, to be the golden girl everyone adored. She loved her role as a cheerleader, but she also cherished her quiet moments, wandering the woods with her camera, capturing the way sunlight filtered through the trees. Those photographs, later displayed at her memorial, revealed a sensitive soul who saw beauty in the mundane. But popularity came with a cost. Emily's confidence sometimes veered into arrogance, and her sharp tongue could cut deeply. She wasn't cruel, but she wasn't always kind either. Her playful jabs at classmates, especially those on the fringes, were often dismissed as teenage banter. No one could have predicted that those moments would plant the seeds of a tragedy that would change Willow Creek forever. The night of the party. The night before her death, Emily attended a house party thrown by a senior, Tyler Grayson. The Grayson home, a sprawling Victorian on the edge of town, buzzed with music and laughter. Teens spilled onto the lawn, red Solo cups in hand, as the autumn air carried the scent of bonfires. Emily was in her element, dancing with friends and flirting with admirers. She wore a denim jacket over a red sweater, her hair loose and glowing under the string lights. No one noticed when she slipped away, her laughter fading into the night. The party was the last place anyone saw her alive. When she didn't return home, her parents assumed she'd crashed at a friend's house, a common occurrence after such events. But by dawn, panic set in. Tom Harper called her friends, his voice trembling with worry. Linda scoured Emily's room, finding her phone charger, but no phone. The discovery of her body hours later turned their fear into devastation. Detective Sarah Lawson was called to the scene before the sun had fully risen. A widow in her early 40s, Sarah had seen her share of darkness. After losing her husband in a car accident 6 years earlier, she'd thrown herself into her work, finding solace in solving crimes. Her Hartford apartment, sparsely decorated with old family photos, was a testament to her solitary life. But Sarah's empathy for victims drove her. She treated each case as if it were her own loss. The crime scene was a study in horror. Emily's body bore the marks of a fierce struggle: bruises on her arms, scratches on her face, and dirt under her nails. The shoelace, tied with savage force, had left deep welts. Her jacket was torn, her jeans mud-stained. The red-painted message on the tree suggested a killer with a personal vendetta, someone who wanted to send a message. Sarah's team collected samples, paint chips, soil, fibers, and dusted the shoelace for prints. A nearby security camera offered grainy footage of figures moving through the woods, but the images were too blurry to identify. Sarah's first task was to reconstruct Emily's final hours. Witnesses confirmed she'd left the party around midnight, but no one saw her leave. Her phone, found in her purse, was cracked but functional, revealing no unusual calls or texts. The proximity of the crime scene to the party house, just a few hundred yards, suggested the killer knew the area well. Sarah's gut told her this was no random act. The killer was someone Emily knew, someone who had blended into the crowd that night. Sarah began interviewing students, starting with those closest to Emily. The first was Jacob Miller, the 17-year-old football captain whose charm masked a fragile ego. Jacob was the golden boy of Willow Creek High, with tousled brown hair and a smile that won hearts. But beneath his confident exterior, he was a young man burdened by his parents' expectations. His father, a former athlete, demanded athletic glory. His mother, a perfectionist, insisted on a flawless image. Weeks before the murder, Jacob had asked Emily out during a school assembly, only to be met with a sarcastic laugh that echoed through the gym. The humiliation stung, and friends noticed Jacob's behavior shift. He drank heavily, his usual charm replaced by brooding anger. At the party, he tried to win Emily back, but their brief exchange ended in tension. Jacob claimed Emily helped him to a taxi after he'd had too much to drink, a story corroborated by the driver and his family's housekeeper, who heard him stumble home at 1:30 a.m. Despite his solid alibi, Sarah noted his nervous tics during questioning, trembling hands, averted eyes, that hinted at unspoken guilt. Next was Lily Carter, Emily's former best friend. Lily, with her soft brown ponytail and earnest demeanor, was the kind of girl who baked cookies for classmates and stayed up late helping friends study. She and Emily had been inseparable until a rumor, spread by Emily, accused Lily of cheating on a project. The betrayal culminated in a tearful confrontation in the school hallway, where Lily vowed never to forgive her. During her interrogation, Lily broke down, insisting they'd reconciled, but deleted messages on her phone raised suspicions. Her alibi, she'd left the party early with her brother, confirmed by their mother and a neighbor, cleared her, but her emotional fragility left Sarah wondering if she was hiding something. Grace Sullivan, a fiercely ambitious student, was another suspect. Grace, with her polished appearance and relentless drive, had lost the student council presidency to Emily by a mere 5 votes. Her private resentment was well known. Classmates overheard her calling Emily's victory unfair. At the party, Grace kept her distance, leaving around midnight with her friend Sophie. Multiple witnesses, including her mother and a neighbor, verified her whereabouts, but her defensive tone during questioning suggested lingering bitterness. The investigation took a darker turn when Sarah searched the lockers of students close to Emily. In Ethan Brooks' locker, she found a diary that chilled her to the core. Ethan, a 16-year-old outcast, was an easy target for bullies. With his disheveled hair, thick glasses, and thrift store clothes, he was invisible to most, except when Emily and her friends mocked him. His diary was a window into a tormented mind, filled with obsessive entries about Emily. He described watching her from afar, torn between admiration and hatred. One passage read, "She thinks she's untouchable, but one day she'll pay for every laugh." Ethan's alibi was shaky. He claimed to have walked home alone after the party, with no witnesses to confirm it. His nervous demeanor during questioning, coupled with the diary's disturbing content, made him a prime suspect. Sarah's team re-examined the evidence, and a breakthrough came when forensic tests matched Ethan's fingerprints to the shoelace and found traces of red paint under his nails, identical to the tree's message. Under intense questioning, Ethan's facade crumbled. In a small, fluorescent-lit room, he sat hunched, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean to kill her," he sobbed, tears streaming down his face. "I just wanted her to know how it felt. To be nothing, to be laughed at." Ethan recounted the night of the party. Consumed by years of humiliation, he followed Emily into the woods, intending to confront her. He'd brought the paint for a school project, but in his rage, it became a tool of deception. When Emily saw him, she screamed, fighting back with surprising strength. In a blind panic, Ethan grabbed a shoelace from his pocket and tightened it around her neck, intending to subdue her. But as she struggled, he lost control. Squeezing until she went still, Realizing what he'd done, he scrawled the message on the tree to mislead investigators, hoping to pin the crime on someone else. The confession was a gut punch. Ethan wasn't a hardened criminal, but a broken boy whose pain had festered into violence. Sarah, hardened by years on the force, felt a pang of sorrow, not for Ethan's fate, but for the system that had failed him and Emily both. Ethan's trial was a media circus, with reporters camped outside the Willow Creek courthouse. The prosecution painted him as a calculating killer, emphasizing the premeditated nature of the painted message. The defense argued he was a victim of relentless bullying, driven to a momentary lapse by emotional trauma. After a tense deliberation, the jury convicted Ethan of second-degree murder, sentencing him to 25 years with a chance for parole after 15. Willow Creek was forever altered. Parents held their children closer, haunted by the realization that harmless teasing could have deadly consequences. Students grappled with guilt, wondering if they could have intervened. Emily's parents turned her room into a shrine, her photographs a bittersweet reminder of her unfulfilled dreams. The school launched anti-bullying programs, but the scars remained. In his cell, Ethan spends his days in quiet reflection, haunted by the image of Emily's lifeless eyes. His story is a stark warning of how resentment, left unchecked, can consume a soul, leaving only regret in its wake. Willow Creek, once a haven of innocence, now carries the weight of a tragedy that reminds us all, even in the safest places, darkness can take root. In the sun-dappled suburbs of Pasadena, California, life unfolded like a postcard from paradise. Rows of craftsman bungalows, their porches adorned with hanging ferns, lined streets where children rode bikes and neighbors waved over white picket fences. The air carried the scent of jasmine and fresh-cut grass, and community barbecues filled weekends with laughter. Pasadena was a place where dreams took root, where families like the Carters seemed to embody the ideal of suburban bliss. But on March 31, 2019, a gruesome discovery shattered that illusion, revealing a darkness that had festered behind closed doors. That morning, Tom Reynolds, a local fisherman, cast his line into the quiet waters of the San Gabriel River, a secluded spot where willows draped over rocky banks. His eyes caught a glint among the stones, a shape that didn't belong. As he waded closer, his breath caught. It was the body of 23-year-old Sophie Bennett, her delicate frame bruised and lifeless, her neck marked by the cruel grip of strangulation. The town reeled, unable to comprehend such horror in their haven. Sophie, known for her kindness and quiet strength, was gone, and the truth of her death would tear her family and Pasadena apart. Sophie Bennett was the kind of person who left an imprint on everyone she met. With her warm hazel eyes and soft smile, she had a way of making strangers feel like friends. A recent college graduate, she'd returned to Pasadena to live with her mother, Laura Carter, and stepfather David Carter, while she figured out her next steps. Sophie was no stranger to adversity. Her parents' divorce when she was 9 had left scars, but she'd emerged with a resilience that defined her. She volunteered at a local animal shelter, where her gentle touch calmed even the most skittish dogs, and she dreamed of opening a bakery, her kitchen often filled with the aroma of her experimental recipes. Growing up, Sophie had been her mother's confidant. Laura, a third-grade teacher with a penchant for colorful scarves, leaned on Sophie during the lonely years after her first marriage ended. When Laura married David, a charismatic sales manager with a knack for closing deals, Sophie was 14, hopeful that he'd bring stability to their fractured family. David seemed perfect at first, attentive, generous, always ready with a joke. He'd take Sophie to the movies, help with her homework, and cheer at her soccer games. To outsiders, the Carters were a model family, their home a hub for holiday parties and book club meetings. But Sophie's diaries, later uncovered by investigators, told a different story. Beneath her cheerful exterior, she carried a growing unease. David's attention, once fatherly, had become suffocating. He'd linger too long in her doorway, ask probing questions about her friends, and insist on driving her everywhere. Even when she protested. "I feel like he's watching me," she wrote, her words tinged with confusion. "Like I'm not his daughter, but something else." Sophie's return home after college had reignited these tensions, setting the stage for a tragedy no one saw coming. The morning of March 31st began like any other in Pasadena. Laura Carter was at a teachers' conference in San Diego, unaware that her world was about to collapse. David, home alone, went about his routine, waving to neighbors as he mowed the lawn. Sophie had told friends she planned to spend the day baking, her latest project a batch of lavender scones for a shelter fundraiser. When Laura called to check in, David assured her Sophie was fine, probably out with friends. But by noon, Sophie's absence sparked concern. Her phone went to voicemail, and her car sat untouched in the driveway. Tom Reynolds' discovery of Sophie's body sent shockwaves through the community. Police cordoned off the riverbank, their flashlights cutting through the morning mist. Sophie's body bore the marks of a brutal struggle. Bruises on her wrists, scratches on her arms, and a deep ligature mark around her neck. Her clothes, a light blue sweater and jeans, were torn, and her sneakers were missing one lace. Most chilling was the evidence of assault, suggesting a crime driven by personal rage. Her phone, later found hidden under her bed, held a single unidentified fingerprint, a clue that would prove pivotal. Detective Mark Reynolds, no relation to the fisherman, took charge of the case. A 20-year veteran with a grizzled demeanor, Mark was known for his dogged persistence. His own family life was strained. His teenage daughter, Ellie, had grown distant, and his marriage was fraying under the weight of long hours. Sophie's case hit close to home. Her age reminded him of Ellie, and he vowed to find her killer, no matter the cost. The crime scene offered a wealth of evidence, but also questions. The riverbank, a half-mile from the Carter home, was a secluded spot, suggesting the killer knew the area well. Fibers caught in Sophie's sweater didn't match her clothing, and traces of soil suggested she'd been moved after death. Mark's team canvassed the neighborhood, interviewing dog walkers and joggers, but no one had seen anything unusual. A tip from a local teen who'd noticed a man lingering near the river days earlier led to a dead end, a groundskeeper with no connection to Sophie. Mark began with those closest to Sophie, starting with her ex-boyfriend, Ethan Parker. Ethan, a 24-year-old barista with a history of petty theft, had dated Sophie for 6 months before a messy breakup. Friends described him as clingy, prone to jealous outbursts. At the shelter, he'd once confronted Sophie about a male coworker, his voice loud enough to draw stares. When questioned, Ethan was visibly shaken, his hands trembling as he claimed he'd been at a friend's house the night Sophie died. His fingerprints didn't match the one on her phone, and his friend's testimony confirmed his alibi, but Mark kept him on the list, sensing his volatility. Suspicions soon shifted to David Carter. To the community, David was a model citizen, active in the Rotary Club, always quick to help a neighbor. But Mark noticed inconsistencies in his story. David claimed Sophie had gone for a walk the evening before, but her phone's location data showed it hadn't left the house. During interviews, David's grief seemed theatrical, his tears accompanied by possessive phrases. "She was my girl," he repeated, his eyes darting. A friend of Sophie's, Mia Torres, came forward with a troubling memory. Sophie had confided that David made her uncomfortable, once locking her bedroom door during an argument to talk. Laura, devastated by her daughter's death, initially defended David. "He loved Sophie like his own," she insisted, her voice breaking. But as evidence mounted, cracks appeared in her certainty. She recalled David's odd behavior, his insistence on controlling Sophie's schedule, his discomfort when she dated. A second search of the Carter home, prompted by a tip from Mia, uncovered a hidden basement room. Behind a locked door, Mark's team found a shrine of sorts: Sophie's diaries, a scarf she'd worn, and a pair of David's work boots, their soles stained with blood that matched Sophie's DNA. The phone's unidentified fingerprint was David's, sealing his fate. In a stark interrogation room, David's polished facade crumbled. Mark leaned forward, his voice steady but firm, presenting the evidence: the blood, the fingerprint, the shrine. David's shoulders slumped, and after a long silence he spoke, his voice hollow. "I never meant for this to happen," he whispered. "I loved her too much." What emerged was a story of twisted obsession. David had always seen Sophie as a reflection of his ex-wife, Claire, whose departure had left him shattered. Sophie's resemblance, her hazel eyes, her gentle laugh, stirred feelings he couldn't suppress. As she grew older, his paternal affection morphed into something darker. He began manipulating her, showering her with gifts to keep her close, isolating her from friends. When Sophie returned home after college, his fixation intensified. He'd sneak into her room to read her diaries, justifying it as protecting her. The tipping point came when Sophie started dating Ethan. David's jealousy flared, and he began pressuring her to end the relationship. In a moment of weakness, Sophie confided in him about her fears, and David exploited her vulnerability, initiating a secret, manipulative relationship. When Sophie discovered she was pregnant, she was terrified, not of Ethan, but of David. She planned to leave Pasadena, claiming Ethan was the father to protect their secret. On the night of her death, David confronted her in their home, his rage erupting when she refused to stay. In a frenzy, he assaulted her, then drove her to the river, strangling her to silence her pleas. He hid her phone and staged the scene, believing he could outsmart the police. David's trial gripped Pasadena, drawing reporters from across the state. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. Laura sat in the front row, her face etched with betrayal, clutching Sophie's childhood teddy bear. The prosecution presented a damning case: the blood-stained boots, the fingerprint, and David's recorded confession. A psychologist testified about obsessive personality disorders, explaining how David's fixation had warped his perception of love. The defense argued he was mentally unwell, driven by unresolved trauma from his past, but the jury was unmoved. After a swift deliberation, David was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. The trial's emotional climax came during Laura's testimony. Facing David, her voice trembled with anguish. "You were supposed to protect her," she said, tears streaming. "You destroyed us." Laura's words echoed in the courtroom, a haunting epitaph for a family torn apart. She later moved to a small apartment, unable to bear the memories of the house where Sophie died. She became a recluse, her once vibrant spirit dimmed by guilt for missing the signs. Pasadena struggled to heal. Neighbors who'd once admired David now whispered about the clues they'd overlooked: his overly attentive demeanor, his discomfort with Sophie's independence. The animal shelter where Sophie volunteered dedicated a garden in her memory, its flowers a tribute to her kindness. David, in his cell, writes endless letters to Sophie, each one returned unopened. His obsession, once a private torment, is now his prison. Sophie's story is a chilling reminder of the dangers hidden within families, where love can twist into something unrecognizable. It's a call to listen, to the quiet fears of those we love, to the warnings we dismiss. In Pasadena, the San Gabriel River flows on, its waters carrying the weight of a tragedy that changed a town forever. Pinewood, Colorado, was a place where winter painted everything in shades of silver and white. Tucked into the Rockies, its snow-dusted streets and cozy chalets drew skiers and families seeking a slice of alpine charm. The heart of the town was its municipal skating rink, a frozen oval where children laughed and couples glided under twinkling lights. Pinewood felt like a sanctuary, a community where neighbors shoveled each other's driveways and shared hot cocoa at the annual winter festival. But on a bitter November night, a discovery beneath the rink's ice shattered that sense of safety, revealing a tragedy that would haunt the town for years. At 10 p.m., a rink attendant, checking the ice after a late practice, noticed a shadow beneath the surface. Thinking it was debris, he called for help, but as the maintenance crew chipped away, they uncovered something far worse: the frozen body of 17-year-old Olivia Bennett, her face locked in a silent scream. Her wrists bore rope burns, her neck was bruised, and her nails were broken from a desperate fight. Pinewood, a town that thrived on warmth, was plunged into a chilling nightmare, and the search for Olivia's killer would expose the fragility of love and trust. Olivia Bennett was Pinewood's golden girl, a figure skater whose grace on the ice was matched only by her quiet determination. With her auburn hair and piercing green eyes, she moved like a poem, each spin and leap a testament to years of discipline. At Pinewood High, she was a junior, admired not just for her talent but for her kindness. She'd tutor struggling classmates and share her snacks with anyone who looked hungry. Off the ice, Olivia's passion was photography, her camera always slung around her neck. She'd capture the fleeting beauty of a snowflake or the glow of dawn over the mountains, dreaming of studying art in New York. Olivia's life wasn't without struggle. Her mother, Karen, a single parent after a bitter divorce, worked long hours as a nurse, leaving Olivia and her older brother Daniel to fend for themselves. Daniel, 19, was fiercely protective, but his temper often clashed with Olivia's need for independence. The rink was her escape, a place where she could lose herself in the rhythm of her blades. Her coach, Michael Reed, saw her as a prodigy, pushing her toward national competitions. But Olivia confided in friends that she felt trapped by his expectations. She longed to trade her skates for a paintbrush, a dream she kept secret from those who saw her as Pinewood's skating star. Her relationship with Ryan Foster, an 18-year-old senior, was the bright spot in her life, at first. Ryan, with his brooding charm and leather jacket, was a musician who played guitar at local coffee shops. Their romance began at a school dance, where Ryan's shy smile won her over. But as months passed, his possessiveness surfaced. He'd text her incessantly, demanding to know her whereabouts, and sulk when she spent time with friends. Olivia's diary, later found in her room, revealed her growing unease. "I love him, but he's changing. I don't know how to leave." The evening of November 12th started like any other. Olivia had spent the afternoon at the rink, practicing for an upcoming regional competition. Her spins were flawless, but her heart wasn't in it. She'd told her best friend, Chloe Evans, that she planned to quit skating after the season, a decision that would upend her coach's dreams and her town's expectations. After practice, she texted Chloe, promising to meet for hot chocolate the next day. But a cryptic message from an unknown number, "Meet me at the rink, it's urgent," changed her plans. When Olivia didn't come home, Karen assumed she was at Chloe's, a common occurrence after late practices. But by morning, worry set in. Daniel, who'd been at a friend's house, called Olivia's phone, only to hear it ring unanswered in her bedroom. The discovery of her body that night turned Pinewood upside down. The rink, once a symbol of joy, became a crime scene, its ice scarred by the truth it had concealed. Detective Emma Caldwell was called to the scene as snow began to fall, blanketing Pinewood in silence. Emma, 38, was a rising star in the county sheriff's office, known for her sharp intuition and relentless drive. Her personal life, though, was a quiet struggle. After losing her younger sister to a hit-and-run a decade earlier, Emma had buried herself in work, her apartment a sparse collection of case files and unopened moving boxes. Olivia's case struck a chord. Her youth and talent mirrored her sister's, and Emma vowed to bring her justice. The crime scene was both haunting and complex. Olivia's body, preserved by the freezing water, told a story of violence. Rope burns on her wrists suggested she'd been restrained, and bruises on her neck pointed to strangulation. Her nails held traces of skin, indicating a fierce struggle. The rink's ice had been deliberately resealed, a process that required access to the Zamboni and knowledge of the rink's schedule. Fibers caught in Olivia's sweater, dark wool, not hers, offered a clue, as did a single skate lace found near the rink's edge, its fibers matching the marks on her wrists. Emma's team scoured the rink for evidence. Security footage from a nearby gas station showed a hooded figure near the rink at 1 a.m., but the image was too grainy to identify. The mysterious text, traced to a burner phone, was a dead end, purchased with cash days earlier. Emma interviewed rink staff, uncovering a groundskeeper with a history of loitering, but his alibi, working a night shift at a diner, checked out. A tip about a drifter seen in town led to a brief chase, but the man had no connection to Olivia. Suspicion turned to those closest to her. Daniel Bennett, Olivia's brother, was the first suspect. His protective streak was well known, and neighbors recalled a shouting match between the siblings weeks earlier when Olivia accused him of meddling in her life. Daniel admitted they'd argued about her plans to quit skating, but he claimed he was at a friend's house the night she died. Security footage from a convenience store and ice samples from the rink, showing no traces of his DNA, cleared him, though his guilt over their last fight lingered. Chloe Evans, Olivia's best friend, was next. Chloe, a bubbly cheerleader, had been Olivia's confidant, but a recent argument over a group project had strained their bond. At a school assembly, Chloe had snapped at Olivia in front of classmates, her words sharp. "You think you're better than us." Chloe insisted she'd made amends, and her alibi, spending the night at her aunt's house, confirmed by phone records, held firm. Still, Emma noted Chloe's evasiveness, as if she was hiding a smaller truth. Michael Reed, Olivia's coach, raised red flags. A former skater turned taskmaster, Michael had pinned his hopes on Olivia, seeing her as his ticket to coaching glory. His obsession with her career was intense. He'd schedule extra practices, critique her every move, and dismiss her talk of quitting. When Olivia confided her plans to leave skating, Michael was livid, his dreams unraveling. But he was at a coaching seminar in Denver that night, verified by colleagues and hotel receipts, ruling him out. Sophia Grant, a teammate, was another possibility. Sophia, 16, was fiercely competitive, her jealousy of Olivia's scholarship to a prestigious skating camp no secret. At practice, she'd mimic Olivia's routines with a bitter edge, and classmates overheard her muttering about unfair advantages. Sophia claimed she was home after practice, and her parents and a neighbor confirmed she'd been grounded that night. Her phone confiscated. The fibers in Olivia's sweater didn't match Sophia's clothing, and Emma moved on. The breakthrough came when Emma re-examined Olivia's phone. A series of deleted texts, recovered by forensics, revealed a heated exchange with Ryan Foster the night she died. Ryan had begged her to meet, his messages escalating from pleas to threats. "If you leave me, you'll regret it." Olivia's final reply was firm, "I'm done, Ryan. Let me go." The burner phone's purchase was traced to a store where Ryan worked part-time, and the wool fibers matched a scarf he often wore. When confronted, Ryan unraveled. In the interrogation room, his bravado gave way to sobs. "I didn't mean to hurt her," he cried, his voice breaking. "I just wanted her to stay." Ryan confessed that he'd lured Olivia to the rink, using the burner phone to avoid suspicion. Their argument escalated when Olivia reiterated her decision to end their relationship. Enraged, Ryan grabbed a skate lace from her bag, tying her wrists to stop her from leaving. When she fought back, scratching his arms, he pushed her onto the rink's thin ice, a section under repair. The ice gave way and Olivia fell into the freezing water. In a panic, Ryan watched her struggle, then fled, returning later to reseal the ice with the Zamboni, hoping to erase his crime. The confession was a gut-wrenching revelation. Ryan wasn't a monster, but a young man consumed by insecurity and desperation. His love for Olivia, once genuine, had twisted into a need to control her. A need that ended in tragedy. Ryan's trial was a somber affair, held in Pinewood's small courthouse as snow fell outside. The courtroom was packed with townsfolk, many wearing ribbons in Olivia's favorite color, green. The prosecution presented a meticulous case. The texts, the fibers, the confession. A forensic expert explained how the rink's ice had preserved Olivia's body, locking the evidence in time. Ryan's defense argued he was emotionally unstable, a teen overwhelmed by rejection, but the jury saw premeditation in the burner phone and the resealing of the ice. After 3 days, Ryan was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 35 years, his future frozen as surely as Olivia's fate. Karen Bennett sat through the trial in silence, clutching Olivia's camera. In her victim impact statement, she spoke of her daughter's dreams, her voice steady despite her grief. Olivia saw the world differently. She deserved to share that vision. Daniel, racked with guilt, left Pinewood for college, vowing to honor his sister's memory. Chloe organized a photography exhibit at the school, displaying Olivia's work, images of snowflakes, mountains, and fleeting moments that captured her spirit. Pinewood struggled to reclaim its warmth. The rink reopened, but skaters whispered of ghostly taps beneath the ice, a legend that grew with each retelling. The town held a vigil, where Olivia's photographs were projected onto a screen, her art a beacon of light in the darkness. Emma Caldwell, forever changed by the case, visited her sister's grave, promising to keep fighting for those who couldn't. Ryan, in prison, plays his guitar in solitude, each note a reminder of the girl he loved and lost. Olivia's story is a cautionary tale of love turned toxic, a reminder that even in the tightest communities, shadows can lurk. In Pinewood, the rink still sparkles under the stars, but its ice carries a weight no one can forget. A girl, a dream, a tragedy frozen in time. If you're loving these gripping true crime stories, drop a 1 in the comments below and hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more chilling tales. Your support keeps the stories coming.